Did you know there was once a sea monster so bizarre, so terrifying that scientists still struggle to explain how it even existed? A creature so alien that it defies the laws of evolution? No, this isn't a myth. It was real. And what's even stranger, it vanished just as mysteriously as it appeared. For decades, paleontologists have unearthed fossils of terrifying marine reptiles, massive mosasaurs, razor-toothed pliosaurs, and the gigantic megalodon. But among all these prehistoric giants, one creature stands out as an evolutionary paradox. When scientists first discovered its fossils, they were convinced it had to be a mistake. Its body didn't make sense. Its features didn't match anything we've seen before. And the more they studied it, the more impossible it seemed. But before we get into what made this creature so absurd, let's take a step back. Imagine the oceans of the late Cretaceous period. This isn't the ocean you know today. No peaceful blue waters, no friendly dolphins. This was a battleground, the ultimate nightmare. Every corner of the sea was filled with monsters, giant fish with fangs the size of knives, reptiles so large they could swallow a great white shark whole, and deep-sea horrors we can barely comprehend. And yet, among all these terrifying beasts, this one creature was different. Not just big, not just deadly, but something else entirely. Something that shouldn't have worked. Something that shouldn't have survived. Meet Thalatorchon saurophagus, the sea ruler that devoured other lizards. But here's where it gets bizarre. Unlike other marine predators, Thalatorchon had an unusual set of adaptations that left scientists completely baffled. Its skull was both short and wide, built for crushing rather than slicing. Its body was long and eel-like, but it had powerful flippers more suited for bursts of speed. And strangest of all, it appeared to be the first apex predator of its time, despite lacking the streamlined design that most ocean hunters evolved to have. How did it hunt? How did it survive? And more importantly, why did it disappear? For years, paleontologists debated its existence. Some thought its fossils were misidentified. Others believed it was an evolutionary mistake, an experiment that nature quickly erased. But then came the real shock. As they continued to study Thalatorchon, they found evidence that this bizarre sea monster wasn't alone. There were others like it, creatures that defied logic, existing for a short period before vanishing without a trace. This raised a terrifying question. Were these creatures wiped out by something we don't yet understand? A force greater than even the asteroid that ended the dinosaurs? We often think of extinction events as sudden, an asteroid, a volcanic eruption, a cataclysmic event. But what if some creatures disappeared for a reason we haven't yet discovered? What if Thalatorchon and its kind were erased not by a disaster, but by something far stranger? And here's where things take an even darker turn. Recent discoveries suggest that these creatures weren't just victims of extinction. They might have been signs of something bigger, a shift in Earth's oceans that made it impossible for them to survive, a change so radical that entire groups of species vanished overnight. But what was it? Some scientists believe it was a sudden drop in oxygen levels, an event that turned the oceans into a death trap. Others think it was an invasion, new predators that outcompeted and replaced them. But there's one theory that stands out as the most disturbing of all. The idea that Thalatorchon and its kind were an evolutionary dead end, doomed from the start. A design so flawed that it couldn't survive in the very world it was born into. But if that's true, then why did it become the top predator in the first place? Why did nature allow something so inefficient to dominate the seas for millions of years? Unless, of course, there's something we're missing, a piece of the puzzle we haven't yet found. And that's what makes this mystery so terrifying. Because if creatures like Thalatorchon were suddenly wiped out by a force we don't understand, what does that mean for us? Could history repeat itself? Could we be next? If you think this is the strangest prehistoric mystery, just wait until you hear about the predator so powerful it could bite through bone like butter. Click here to uncover its terrifying secret.